Over the past 2 decades, we've watched the big tech platforms, Google, Microsoft, and other tech companies scrape the web for everything that we've published, packaged, and poured ourselves into. All of our stories, all of our insights, our brand voices, all disassembled and then reassembled in service of the algorithm. And now, well, OpenAI and other generative AI companies are doing the exact same thing. What's to be done? Well, let's talk about it. Google, Microsoft, and every other big tech company in the platform seems to want to scrape the web for everything we've published. They've done it for years. They've used our ideas to build their business model. And as marketers, well, we've cycled through all 5 stages of the Kubler-Ross grief framework, trying to make peace with it. At first, we denied it. Early 2000s, this is going to help us. No, it really will. It'll really help people find us, we told ourselves. And then we got angry. Wait a minute. Are they just monetizing our work? And then we bargained. Okay, well, maybe if we play by their rules, pay for visibility, optimize harder, we'll still show up. And then eventually came the depression. Are we just feeding the machines now? And finally, some version of acceptance, probably a few years ago. This is just how the world works now. It's the way things are. Here's the thing. We're already back at the beginning of that cycle when it comes to generative AI because artificial intelligence isn't just upending the rules, it's rewriting the entire game. Earlier this year, Cloudflare's CEO dropped a stat that should make every marketer stop and said, in 2025, it'll take 15 Google crawls to generate just one visitor to your site. 10 years ago, it took half a crawl. And OpenAI, they're scraping 1,500 pages for every one click they return. Now, maybe that's accurate, maybe it's not, maybe the math isn't quite mathing, but let that sink in for a second because the trend is clear. This won't be just a drop in visibility, it will be a collapse in marketing's reach and frequency physics that we've enjoyed for the last 20 years. The long-standing pillars of reach and frequency, the ones we've built decades of strategy on, they are still standing, but they no longer hold up the roof. Reach no longer guarantees attention, and frequency, especially when it's paid for, often just means shouting into a louder void. So what do we do now? What do we do? Well, let's revisit those pillars, not to retire them, but to reimagine what reach and frequency really means in 2025. These are the new rules of reach and frequency. So number one, reach, from broadcast to belonging. So in its traditional sense, reach has always been about scale, the size of your audience, the breadth of your exposure. The formula was simple. The wider your net, the more fish you caught. But the internet, and now AI, has turned the wide net, well, into a giant sieve, right? We're catching less even though we're publishing more. So what if reach isn't about how many anymore? What if it's about how well you belong? The brands that we can see gaining traction today aren't necessarily louder. They're just better at fitting into the communities they try and fit in with. They don't interrupt the communities, they inhabit them, they belong to them. Take Amazon Business, for example, a wonderful campaign that's been going for the last few years, Buy Smarter, Dream Bigger. Their campaign, it's not loud, it didn't try and grab headlines, it was built slowly and intentionally, speaking directly to procurement professionals in their own language. Not trend chasing, not buzz seeking, just steady relevance and building trust in those communities. That's the point. True reach today starts wide but goes deep. It begins with broad awareness, but it earns its place through belonging in the communities that it tries to belong to, through trust, specificity, relevance. It takes a lot more work, but it does actually work. Number two, frequency. Well, it's now from repetition to narrative velocity. And let's talk about frequency for a second. Now, the age-old idea that was basically people need to hear something multiple times before it sticks. It was always our cost, right? We need to repeat ourselves. It's going to cost more. Once upon a time, all of this was true. Mass media's heyday, repeating your message across a few channels made it memorable. It's what stuck, that jingle, that idea of the ad, it's stuck. But today, repetition doesn't mean retention. We're all moving too fast. Our attention spans are too fragmented these days. It's too easy to swipe, and most marketing messages vanish before they're even processed. So, instead of trying to be remembered, the real challenge now is how to stay relevant long enough to matter. And that means designing content with momentum. Think of it like a story told in episodes. Every message building on the last, each touch point moving toward the narrative and moving that narrative forward. In other words, narrative velocity. It's not about how often someone sees the same message. It's about how to take each new interaction and how it earns the right to be the next one. So rather than looping the same ad or the same headline, ask what's the most valuable next thing they should or could hear from us, and then build our iterating story around that and repeat that. Number 3, content, from campaign support to standalone value. This is the heart of the matter, content itself, of course. And for years, content has been framed as a supporting act, fuel for the campaign, filler for the newsletter, SEO grist for the mill. But that model, it just doesn't hold up anymore, because the brands that are building real traction, the ones that are earning trust, attention, loyalty, well, they're treating their content like a product and taking that product to market. Something audiences actively seek out is what they're relying on, subscribe to, recommend, rely on, and trust. That shift requires more than just a content calendar. It demands a portfolio of content products. Every piece of content should have a job to do, a purpose, a measurable value, and it should be tailored not to a platform, but to the person inhabiting that platform. Organic channels need depth. Social channels need context. Paid channels need to deliver actual value, not just bait. It also means treating discoverability as part of the product design. Metadata, internal links, summaries, schema, meaningful labeling, all of it builds context that gives your content longevity. Clickbait, it burns trust. Useful content done well builds trust. So where does that leave us in 2025 here in the late summer? Well, in a world where our content is scraped, our reach is diluted, and our visibility is filtered by invisible machines, what are we going to do? Well, we do what marketing has always done and was always meant to do. We build brands that matter. We tell stories that move people. We create momentum, not just the moments. And we do it not by shouting louder, not by showing up everywhere, but by showing up better and where it counts. Want a little more? Well, I've written a full piece over here where you can share with folks, and if we can help you think through your reach and frequency needs, do let us know. We're currently working with a number of companies to help them slow down and go deeper into their approach to brand awareness and depth of community building. And until then, well, just remember, it's your story. Tell it wide, then find the depth and the story and tell all of it to all of your audiences. Well, I'll see you next week.